the Books with Nerd presentations. Just quick about me, I'm a transplant from New Jersey. Don't hold that against me, please. So I've been out here, excuse me, since '97. And originally I started taking photos when I was in high school. So, and I'm going to show you the first nerdy thing. I actually have an agenda. I've retired now for 2 years, but I'm originally a scientist, so I just do these sort of things. But I'm basically just going to go through what I have up there. So, I call this the darkroom ages. I started in '77, and that's before the chips and the cameras. You could take a million pictures, and you had a roll of film that had 24 or 36. Unless you had a nice darkroom, and that thing up at the top left is a bolt loader. That canister has about 100 yards of film. You load it in there, and you can load up the film, and you could have, 30, 40, 100 feet. 100 feet. But you could have 40, 50 photos on there. If you didn't get it too tight, because you could scratch the negatives, which once you took your pictures, you would go and you make your negatives, and then if you were working with your editor for your newspaper, you take a print sheet, which is that thing on the bottom left, and you take the photographic film, put it down under the enlarger, expose it, and then the editor would go through with his pencil, going this one, this one, this one. Really can't see it here, but there are little numbers underneath each of those frames, so you know which one. And then you would take it into the darkroom again, and in order to get an idea how long to expose it for with your enlarger, you would use this thing, that pie chart here, and you expose it for 60 seconds, and then develop it, and you can see here between 12 seconds and 16 seconds is about where you want to be when you would set your enlarger to have the light on with that little clock with the dial that would shut it off. Now, having said that, you can also speed up or slow down the development process. Where you put your paper through your developer and that sort of thing. So when it relates to soccer, I don't know if you can see, it's a little backwards here, but it says Cosmos there. So growing up in New Jersey, they were building the Meadowlands, the giant stadium, and I can see it from my house. I grew up in Bergen. It was on a big hill, and I could see down to East Rutherford. And when soccer was going to be the next biggest thing, Pele was out there, and all the Johnny Carson, on Dick Cavett talking about soccer, and I would go watch the games in the Meadowlands or Giant Stadium, and there's a 16-year-old me doing my first selfie. So up top left is Franz Beckenbauer. You can't see him in there, but Pele's in there, and Giorgio Canaglia, and that sort of thing. And in order to really Americanize soccer, they tried cheerleaders. So those are actual Cosmo cheerleaders that they had during maybe the first game, second game. And you can see how popular it is. There must be dozens of us there in the field. But so my biggest, I have two really big soccer memories. One is seeing Pele's last game, and it was an exhibition game, and it was October 1st, 1977, where he played half for the Cosmos and half for Brazil. And at that time, the stadium was full. There were about 77,000 people there. It was kind of a big deal. So I'm going to fast forward to about 2011, and how did I become? I am the official photographer for the supporters team, the supporters club called. We used to be called the Wizards. That's why you see up in the corner there. It says the Cauldron. But what happened was I would sneak in a camera. The official rules were you could bring in a camera as long as it didn't have an detachable lens, which using a pocket camera or phone or something like that. But this is not a detachable lens. So, you know, they would always go over the security guy, like, is this thing okay? And this, I would bring it in, and I would take pictures of all the fans and some of the players, and I would post them on Facebook. And the president of the Cauldron took notice, and there was one time they're like, hey, our normal guy's not here. We're doing a special TIFO. Does anyone know what a TIFO is? It's a big sign that they paint for a special occasion, and it can be pulled up with just the fans or pulled up with pulleys, that sort of thing. So I would have to get on the south side and shoot across, and they would use it for their social media. So I did that a couple times, and here are a couple TIFOs that they did, and some are pretty elaborate. It is, you know, and they liked my work, and they're like, you know, they called me to do it a couple times, and I would have to get a one-time credential. So, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to do. So the next year, the president's like, hey, what if I just get your credentials for the year? Come in when you want, do what you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was like a bucket list thing for me to be able to go in. So, do I shoot the game? Of course, I shoot some of the game. You know, and I'm literally right there behind the board, the LED board. We see all those advertisements. But honestly, you know, there are tons of photographers there, and they're all shooting the game. I really am there for the fans, and I want to catch the fans. And in the top right here, you can see that's kind of where I live, in that little box that's there. Behind that, covered in confetti. When we score, they shoot confetti. My gear is on all that stuff. But, you know, I try and get what's going on during the game. In the top center there, that's a capo. They're the people that lead the chants, and there are 3 of those. One in the center, and he's the guy who says the one they're going to do. Behind him are the drums, the percussion, and there could be trombones, all sorts of stuff going on. And I'll go up in amongst them and take my photos. I did one time I hit the head with a ball, which was kind of fun. It is a little bit hazardous every once in a while because I am not looking at the game. I'm looking at the fans. You can see here on the top left, they're bringing in a TIFO, and someone was nice enough to take a picture of me. You see my back a lot of times is to the pitch, and I'm looking at all my friends. And these people are my friends. I've known these people. I've been shooting there since, you know, 2012, 2013. There are 2,000 people in the section, and you get to know them. And that's the one thing I do like about football. They really are like a family. We do stuff outside of work. If something happens to one, everyone comes and they come to their aid. It is the thing I enjoy the most, and I've been doing it long enough where, you know, they bring their kids, and then I can watch them grow up. Eventually they go to college, they'll come back with their parents every once in a while, and it's just one of those things where you really become a big family, and we do call it the Cauldron family. So, you know, so how do I do this? You know, where do I put my photos, and how do I get them out to people when I edit them and stuff? And this stuff is a little on the drier side, but so when I get home from a game, and I usually get there early to shoot the tailgate, I'll get there at 3 o'clock, and I'll get home at maybe 11, and I'll have maybe 1,000 photos. And a lot of those are things where if I see a ball coming, I may shoot 20 frames a second, so they're similar. But you can see from 2011 till now, inside each year are all the games. Inside the games, I usually bring 2 camera bodies, and I have my raw photos, my edited, I do some video too. So I'll organize it, and then I'll take that and I'll pre-process them in a program. It's called DxO. DxO knows, I know you really can't see this, it knows all of my cameras, bodies, it knows all of the lenses, and kind of corrects for little foibles they have, like pin cushion and maybe a thing called chroma. And it will also, it'll make a copy, put it in another file, so I never touch the original files, I only work with copies. And one thing I just want to point out, I don't know if a lot of people know this, and again, it's kind of hard to see, but there's in every single file, there's what's called metadata, which up here it has the camera that was shot, whether the flash went off, you know, what f-stop I used, the serial number of the camera, and then there's even more data, and that I have my name, my phone number, you know, permission to use it, copyright, that sort of thing, and it's just digital forensics, and that's in every photo. So you can see I do have my signature up here in one. I kind of stopped taking that off because it's kind of, you really don't need it. So once they are, go back here, sorry. So then they're all done, and these are copies. I will take these copies and dump them 70 at a time into Photoshop. Top right, you can see my friend Dan here is he's one of the percussionists, but he does a capo. That's one of 70, and you can see across the top of the files. So I actually look through each one. I've gotten good at it. I have a macro where I hit a button and it reduces the size. And then I can, when I crop things, there's a thing called the rule of thirds. I don't know if people are familiar with this, if you're a photographer or an artist. What happens is you've got two horizontal and two vertical lines, and the human eye is kind of drawn to those converging points. So here, this happens to be Megan. She's the president of the Cauldron. She's the person that I work with to get my credentials. And you can see I'm kind of bisecting here in the center of her body is where that is. And here I did a couple things like outer glow and a little bit of a radial mask. But, you know, when I've got 1,000 photos, I pick a few that I personally like, and I'll mess with them for 5-10 minutes, which is a lot when you've got 1,000 photos, because it takes me, I get up once in a while, but, you know, it takes me a good 4 hours to go through the game. So then, what do I do in order to get them out to the people? I use Google Photos, and you can see I do the Busker Fest. I really like doing bands in town. These are all separate albums, and what I do is I'll send out a link, and this is what an album looks like for one of our last games. And if you click on the thumbnail, it brings up the photo, and then you can download it, do what you want with it. I also put them out on Facebook, but I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. It takes my high resolution photos and kind of makes them crappy, but. So then, the next thing I do is I'll put them in a Google Doc. And I explain to people, if you click on, you know, the SKC versus LA, it'll take you to that album. This document now is 17 pages long. So I have stuff all the way back to the beginning. My favorite thing is when someone says, remember that photo that you took of me? And I'm like, you know, the thing is, if you get into the Google album and click on the little I, it'll tell you the name of the file. If you give me the year, I can usually find it, and I can find the original one and re-edit, which brings me to how I store these things. I have a NAS drive with 5 20 terabyte external drives because I have lots and lots of photos. Now I'm starting video. Talk about that. That's huge files. So, I mean, that is kind of the way I go about it. Like I said, I don't just do the sporting. Oops, sorry. But this is what happens at the end. So, this is kind of the end of my presentation. If anyone has any questions, please. I was at the U.S. men's team game, and I know you can't see it here. I did not know what the thing was. So that's my wife on the bottom right. And I posted, this is Beth. Beth's butt on the big board. And good thing, I've been married 36 years. My wife's got a good sense of humor. But if you look at some of the comments, my mother-in-law posted jewelry, flowers. Yeah. Because everyone read it wrong. I read it 3 times before I posted it. And one of our friends, she's like, I'm glad I'm not the only one who read it wrong. I was all set to head over to their house with a shovel, vodka, and be Beth's alibi. But anyway, any questions or?
I have a mic if people have questions, and Beth couldn't be here tonight, by the way, because she's practicing with her band, the Dead Betties, who we're performing with.
Yeah.
June. What's the next show?
Yeah. No, that's it. And I'm a Nikon shooter, but I don't have. It's one of those things where you pick something, you kind of have to stick with it because the gear is so expensive. I've got nothing you can stand.
Question. And I think our previous presenters may have all been printed. Oh, sorry.
There you go. Yeah.
Two-thirds.
We got a question up here.
Yeah, questions for me.
Right over here. Brian.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Are you going to take any pictures for the
World Cup? I am not getting credentials. So one time I did shoot CONCACAF, which is kind of a big deal. So when I shoot for the Cauldron, I kind of have free reign. You don't want to stand behind the goal when they're shooting. Obviously, they're faint. But I shot for CONCACAF, and it was very restrictive. It's like, you come in, you get your penny. These are my credentials. They search your bag, they go through the stuff, and they're like, okay, there's a big diagram of the pitch, and where do you want to sit? I'm like, well, I usually don't sit for a little bit, but I'll get up and I'll run up and down the stands. I typically do about 20,000 steps because I run all over the place. And I did shoot it, and it was okay, but I had to sit in one spot, and I couldn't shoot my fans, and they are my friends. There are certain people I shoot for good luck. I'm not typically that type of person, but I'm like, I have to get this one and this one and this one, and our game, depending on how it goes. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question. It'd be way too much, and to be honest, I don't know that I would have fun. Sure.
This is more for the chants. I was wondering what you thought of the USA chant, I believe that we will win. Because it seems to fall a little, sort of within what you're talking about, but it also, to me, has always had both an optimistic but also a pessimistic, kind of vibe to it. So I just kind of wondered what you thought about that chant.
I don't understand it, and I really hate it. What is it? I mean, it just sounds so stupid to me.
Well, have you watched American football? You've been a few times for quite a while.
American football, American soccer?
Soccer.
Yeah. No, I enjoy watching. I've followed sport in KC over the years, but that chant, perplexing to me.
I think my favorite chant
Other question?
Is that a small KC chant?
that
You probably speak to
That's one of my favorite. I mean, they do have all these chants. They have "If I Had the Wings of the Sparrow." Now, I have to say, on the side, there are two groups behind each goal. The south stand is more family oriented. Cauldron is not. My youngest, when he was in Premier League playing, he loved going because he knew. He says, so when we go there with the chants, because a lot of them are very dirty.
When did that Believe chant start? Was that
I don't. That was
Do you
always
know where it
there.
started?
The weird I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was maybe the
Eight.
Did it start with Sporting KC or because I know it's gone national, hasn't it?
Yeah, it started with the national team, I believe
Okay.
it was like when we had Landon Donovan, I want to say 2010, I think somewhere in that era. I think was when I first started here. Yeah. And so we had like our first team was really like kind of competitive for a very long time. You know, then I think that might have been the year we upset that.
Was that Peter Green who didn't?
I'm blank now.
Say that again.
What? So I think it was around that area, somewhere around.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I started going in 2011, so
Yes.
I always remember it being there.
Yeah.
But there are some interesting chants that they do, talking about, they mentioned, getting sanctioned. We weren't allowed to yell at the refs, would say the F word, but it's okay if it's in a chant. As long as it wasn't malicious. But again, like that was said, when you tell people not to do something, they don't care. The cauldron has to pay $1,000. And they say, yeah.
Actually, if I can jump in, I talked to Mauricio about this beforehand because Mexico notoriously has a chant that they do when the goalie kicks the ball and that.
Yes.
They've been trying for years to get the fans to stop doing it. It's a homophobic chant, it's a childish chant, it's a word Mauricio uses. And because they're being told not to do it, it encourages
And
them.
they want to do it.
And just because the sanctions haven't been bad to stop it.
They did try that a little bit in the cauldron, but we are kind of self-policing. They do drink a lot. There's like beer flying all over the place, and if somebody gets a little out of hand, we try and take care of it so security doesn't have to come in. That sort of thing.
I think I'm going to walk the mic back to Jason to close this out. Or you got that mic too? But I also want to put in a plug for KC Current, just as it's easy to take a hold of myself. And KU Soccer is also a really cheap season ticket. It's like $70 a year.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. One more round of applause for Peaty Romano.